For decades, Australia was the envy of the developed world. 28 consecutive years of economic growth without a single recession, abundant natural resources, a lifestyle that combined urban sophistication with endless beaches and sunshine. The lucky country, they called it. But today, that same nation is facing a reckoning. Productivity has flatlined. Living costs have exploded. Record numbers of young Australians are leaving. How did the lucky country's luck run out? Today, we're uncovering why Australia is going broke and what it will take to turn the tide before it's too late. Australia's economy isn't just dependent on resources, it's addicted to them. Around 70% of goods exports come from mining and energy alone. Iron ore, coal, and natural gas dominate the export ledger to an extent that should make economists deeply uncomfortable. Iron ore exports bring in roughly $120 billion annually, nearly 40% of all goods exports. It's an industry that's powered the economy for 2 decades, funding government budgets and creating millionaires in Western Australia. But here's the vulnerability that keeps Treasury officials awake at night. About 60% of iron ore exports go to just one country, China. More than half of Australia's largest export revenue stream depends entirely on the economic health and political goodwill of a single trading partner. A partner whose relationship with Australia has been, let's say, complicated. Coal exports add another $65 billion per year, roughly 20% of goods exports. Liquefied natural gas brings in approximately $55 billion annually. Gold adds another $30 billion. Notice a pattern? These are all commodities extracted from the ground and shipped overseas, with minimal processing. The value-add work, the manufacturing, the innovation that creates higher margin products, that happens elsewhere. In contrast, complex manufactured goods account for less than 15% of total exports. That's extraordinarily low for a developed nation with a highly educated workforce. This dependency creates 3 catastrophic risks. First, commodity price volatility. When China's demand shifts or global markets swing, Australia's revenues can change dramatically. Second, geopolitical exposure. Trade tensions or diplomatic disputes can devastate entire sectors overnight. We've already seen Beijing place tariffs on Australian wine, barley, and coal during political disagreements. Imagine if they decided to diversify away from Australian iron ore entirely. Third, the energy transition. The world is moving away from fossil fuels. Coal, which has been a bedrock of Australian exports for generations, faces terminal decline. Yes, there's potential in critical minerals like lithium and rare earths, but Australia isn't yet set up to process these materials domestically. Once again, we dig it up, ship it out, and let others capture the real value. It's like owning the world's richest mine but refusing to build a refinery. Someone else takes the raw material, transforms it into something valuable, and reaps the bigger rewards. In a stable world, this strategy might work. But in an era of climate action, shifting supply chains, and rising geopolitical tension, building an entire economy on holes in the ground is not just risky, it's reckless. If mining is Australia's first addiction, property is its second. For 30 years, Australians haven't just bought houses, they've worshipped them. Real estate has become the nation's default investment strategy, its conversation starter at barbecues, and its measure of personal success. Residential real estate represents over 60% of household wealth. That's not diversified investment. That's concentration risk on a national scale. Real estate and construction account for roughly 13% of GDP when combined. More than 1 in every $10 of economic activity revolves around buying, selling, and building houses, not productive industries that drive exports or innovation. The price growth has been nothing short of staggering. Over the past 2 decades, median house prices in Sydney have increased by over 250%. In Melbourne, it's similar. The median house price in Sydney now sits around $1,100,000. In Melbourne, it's close to $900,000. These aren't mansions, these are ordinary 3-bedroom homes in middle-ring suburbs. But the real danger is what happens when so much wealth is locked in unproductive assets. Capital that could fund startups, advanced manufacturing, or infrastructure sits in bricks and mortar. And here's the kicker. Houses don't generate exports. They don't create jobs beyond construction. They don't drive innovation. They just sit there, appreciating in value, because supply is constrained and demand is insatiable. Now comes the reckoning. Mortgage stress is at decade highs, defaults are rising, and if unemployment ticks up significantly, forced sales could trigger price falls, trapping recent buyers in negative equity. The wealth illusion evaporates fast when the collateral backing it starts to crumble. When an entire nation treats housing as its primary wealth vehicle and that vehicle breaks down, the whole economy shakes. If you want to understand why Australia's economy feels stuck, you have to look at how much the country invests in its own future. And the answer should alarm everyone. Australia spends just 1.8% of GDP on research and development. The OECD average is 2.7%, nearly 50% more. That's not just an accounting difference. It means that while other developed nations are pouring resources into new technologies, medical breakthroughs, and advanced manufacturing, Australia is spending far less. While South Korea spends over 4.5% and Israel close to 5%, Australia barely cracks the OECD's bottom third. Over time, that gap compounds into a serious disadvantage. When R&D spending is low, fewer high-value industries emerge, startups have a harder time growing, universities struggle to commercialize research, companies fall behind global competitors. That's why underinvestment in innovation isn't just a missed opportunity, it's a slow drain on the country's economic potential. The consequences show up clearly in productivity numbers. From 2010 to 2023, labor productivity grew at just 0.5% per year. The OECD average was 1.2%, more than double. The United States managed 1.4%. Over a decade, that gap compounds into massive economic disadvantage. Why does this matter? Because productivity is the engine of economic growth. If workers can produce more value per hour, wages can rise without causing inflation. Businesses can expand, and the government collects more tax revenue without raising rates. But when productivity barely moves, the economy can't grow sustainably. Incomes stagnate while costs keep climbing. That's exactly what's happening in Australia today. There's another measure that captures the same weakness. The Economic Complexity Index measures how sophisticated a country's exports are. In 2023, Australia ranked 93rd in the world. Let that sink in. The world's 13th largest economy ranks 93rd in export complexity, behind Thailand, Poland, and Romania. That ranking tells you everything. We export simple, unprocessed materials, iron ore, coal, gas, wheat, beef. These don't require deep supply chains, cutting-edge technology, or highly specialized knowledge. When demand shifts or prices fall, we have no alternative industries to cushion the blow. When you combine low R&D investment and a stagnant productivity, you get an economy that's slowly falling behind. Australia is experiencing a historic exodus. In 2025, net overseas migration turned sharply negative for Australian citizens, with over 85,000 more leaving than returning. This is unprecedented in modern Australian history. Traditionally, Australians who left were young people on working holidays. Now the departures include engineers, doctors, data scientists, and entrepreneurs, the exact people who could help build the innovation economy Australia desperately needs. The reasons are painfully clear. In the UK, professionals earn similar salaries with far lower housing costs outside London. In Dubai, tax-free income and lower living costs. In the United States, tech workers and medical professionals earn double or triple. But it's not just about pay. It's about what that money can buy. In Australia, even high earners struggle to afford housing in decent school zones. A household earning $200,000 per year still finds it nearly impossible to buy a house in inner Sydney without massive debt. Meanwhile, in cities like Dallas or Austin, that same income affords a comfortable home and financial security. The loss isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet, it's the erosion of skills that make communities function. Here's the feedback loop that makes this self-perpetuating. When skilled professionals leave, businesses that depend on them struggle. Startups can't find technical talent. Hospitals can't fill rosters. Engineering firms can't take on major projects. This reduces opportunity for those who remain, pushing more people to leave. It becomes a vicious cycle. Meanwhile, immigration continues at high levels, but the skill mix often doesn't match what's departing. Many new arrivals fill essential but lower-wage roles in aged care, hospitality, and retail. These are important jobs, but they don't replace departing specialists in medicine, engineering, and technology. If this continues, Australia faces a future where it trains world-class talent at world-class universities, only to watch that talent build careers and wealth elsewhere. You can't build a prosperous future by exporting your best people. When COVID-19 struck in 2020, Australia's response was swift and aggressive. Border closures and the $89 billion zero-cents JobKeeper program prevented mass unemployment and economic collapse. However, this massive fiscal stimulus, paired with the Reserve Bank cutting rates to 0.1%, triggered unintended consequences. With international travel impossible, Australians redirected spending toward property and renovations. Housing prices surged over 25% in 2 years, and inflation, absent for a decade, spiked to 7.8% by 2022. The RBA's response was equally dramatic: 13 rate increases between May 2022 and November 2023, pushing the cash rate from 0.1% to 4.35%. This aggressive tightening devastated households. A $600,000 mortgage saw monthly payments jump from $2,100 to $3,500. Businesses collapsed at rates not seen since the global financial crisis, and unemployment rose toward 4.5%. Compounding this pain, governments simultaneously pursued budget repair, cutting public sector jobs and delaying infrastructure projects. Exactly the wrong approach during a downturn. By late 2024, Australia faced near-recession conditions with falling per capita GDP. Beneath these immediate problems lurks a demographic crisis. Australia's population is aging rapidly. 17% are now over 65, rising to potentially 25% by 2054. The ratio of working-age people to retirees is collapsing from 5-1 in 2000 to potentially below 3-1 by 2050. This shift has severe fiscal implications. The age pension already costs over $55 billion annually and will balloon further. Healthcare spending, driven by aging and Australia's 30% obesity rate among OECD's highest, is projected to rise from 10% of GDP to over 15% by 2060. Meanwhile, Australia faces a $500 billion infrastructure deficit. Roads, public transport, hospitals and schools are overwhelmed, yet investment is repeatedly deferred. The result? Government debt above 40% of GDP and rising, widening inequality, and young Australians locked out of housing while facing stagnant wages and mounting student debt. The trajectory is what matters. And the trajectory is bad. So here we are. The lucky country facing a reckoning. An economy over-reliant on digging rocks and selling houses, a population aging rapidly while young talent flees overseas, productivity stagnant, innovation underfunded, infrastructure crumbling, and policy responses that lurch from extreme to extreme, often making things worse. Can Australia change course before it's too late? The answers aren't easy. Other countries have faced similar crossroads and emerged stronger. South Korea transformed from agrarian to tech powerhouse. Singapore built a world-class economy on a tiny island with no resources. Ireland went from Europe's poorhouse to an innovation hub. But transformation requires courage. Leaders willing to make hard decisions, citizens willing to embrace change. The question is no longer whether Australia needs to change, it's whether it will change in time. The lucky country's luck is running out. What happens next determines whether this nation remains a beacon of prosperity or becomes a cautionary tale of squandered potential. The window for action is closing. The choice is Australia's to make.